You came to kill the devil, right?
Well, guess what?
I keep you safe. And if you think I'm evil, well, just wait till you meet my variants.
Hello and welcome back to A Stark Contrast, where we discuss the differences and similarities from Marvel Comics to their MCU counterparts. And we are your hosts, Geoffrey
and Dai.
Hello, and welcome back to the pod, everybody.
WB, guess what?
Yes.
It's been a whole year since we started our Patreon patron.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
Sometimes I forget we have
Whatever.
that.
Huh? Yeah,
Sometimes I forget we have that.
How dare you? But we never forget the listeners.
I never forget the listeners,
we just
but
forget that we actually have this service thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a year. So thanks to all of those lovely patrons who have they changed it to backers now, I think.
backers?
Yeah. I forgot. The
Why?
proper jargon has changed.
Why?
They've swayed away from alliteration, maybe. But thanks to everybody who supports the show.
Yes, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
With your hard-earned money, we really appreciate
Thank you.
it. I just wanted to shout out real quick. Second, how's it going, Jeff?
Surviving,
Yeah,
you know?
I'm definitely surviving. I have a bit of a nasal thing.
I lose track of time. It's October
Dude.
already. The year's almost over.
It's so wild.
Yeah, things are moving way too fast,
Yeah.
aka just time.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's going by, life is going by.
Yeah, and next week, for those listening currently, is already New York Comic Con time. So
you are
I'm out.
whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Annual trip, baby.
My
And
God.
it's gonna be fun, but it's gonna be super busy. Like, we've got a group of artists that we're taking with Cadence Comic Art.
Mm-hmm.
And also, just in general, it's gonna be a wild time because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
And who knows if any other strike will finally come to an end. Thankfully, the WGA has reached.
Our writers can start
Yeah,
writing,
They can write.
but
which is
actors
fantastic.
cannot act yet.
Sure. I feel like we're right there. We're right there, right?
So close.
So close. So, not that I expect them to be resolved by next week, but that would be nice. So that'll be interesting because there's a lot of people on deck for that show. Like, again, I mentioned before, Chris Evans is one of them. And so a lot of people from Ahsoka are coming. It's
Wow.
Ewan McGregor is going to be like,
They literally can only take pictures.
Yeah, they can only take pictures and talk about their favorite potato chips. So we'll see how that goes. In other news, Loki season 2 is officially streaming as of this podcast. However, we are recording on Wednesday, so it has not begun yet, and Marvel
Yes.
continues to overlook us.
Yes.
So
We are nothing more than a dust particle.
yeah, we do not have actual context. So that kind of leads into the whole, we won't have proper formulations about the season, let alone the character we're about to explore today, until next episode, which is a mini Marvel. So we're kind of going to go Loki-fied for sure, because we'll be able to watch at least 1 or 2 or 3 episodes by that point.
Yeah.
So everybody go stream that.
Seen some early Twitter reviews from people who have seen the premiere.
I totally avoided it. But I saw they're certified fresh.
Yeah,
Which is
basically it looks good. So excited.
Cool. I know IGN rated the first 4 episodes or the first 2 episodes.
At least 3.
They gave it
for sure.
4, a solid 4. I was like, 4?
Whoa.
But IGN hates everything.
Yeah, they
so-
literally do hate everything.
Yeah, so
Even
whatever.
games, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully the show is starting off very strong.
Yeah.
Can't wait to watch it, and I will by now. But yeah, I guess we can get her on done since this one's a
Oh yeah.
heavy hitter, as we would call it. But first, reminder, we are not experts and we don't claim to be. We're just a couple of nerds nerding out. In this episode, we will be nerding out over the big baddie of Phase 5 and 6.
Ooh!
Kang,
Oh, yeah.
the Conqueror.
Oh, yeah. He is a menace.
He's not that kind of menace, but he's definitely a menace.
Yeah.
For sure. And so, bringing back some old names created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby.
Oh, wow.
Does that surprise you at all?
I mean,
Did
the OG goats.
Did you suspect how, like, before we get into this even, what did you expect him to be a more modern character? Did you think he was like old school or like?
Well, I mean, I definitely knew he was definitely on. I don't know how old school, but I've seen like the old comics of him and
yeah,
like his blue face and all
Yeah.
that costume and everything.
Sure.
So, no, I'm not surprised at all.
Oh,
Those
interesting.
guys,
That's great.
those guys just know what they're doing.
Yeah. And so Kang's first appearance is in The Avengers number 8. So this is it's year 1 of Avengers, essentially. September 1964.
Oof.
Guess the cover price?
Oh my gosh.
Come on.
I got it right last time.
You got it right the last 2 or 3
1960.
times.
Yeah, that was like
Yeah.
12?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey. So funny enough, Marvel actually like blanked out the price on this digital version.
Oh, wow.
But that's the cover.
Wow.
And so you can see it's funny. He's got purple pants with orange stripes.
I mean, it looks like Green Goblin.
He looks a little bit like a goblin, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's because of the green and purple, which we'll get into.
Exactly.
But yeah, he's fighting the classic lineup of Avengers, which in this case, on the cover at least, is Iron Man, Ant-Man, who is Giant Man at the moment, Wasp, Thor, Captain America, and a very discreet Rick Jones
Oh,
in the
Oh,
background. Yeah.
chilling.
Yeah, if you don't know who Rick Jones is, you're just kind of like, who is that guy? And so anyway, I was able to find a 9.2 CGC graded
Whoa.
of this issue on Shortbox. Did you look at the doc? Any guesses?
I didn't look.
So 9.2 is about $7,500.
Oh my God.
On eBay, a CGC 9.4 signature series signed by Stan. This is 0.2 difference. But because it's signed by Stan, the seller is looking for $59,000.
Oh my God. What a jump.
It's crazy, right? How legitimate that is. That's the question. I'm not.
Is there no pics? Is there a pic?
There's pics and stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, it's completely legitimate. But I just don't know how someone can justify that price, even though it is a signature series. You know what I mean? Like, what is the value of a Stanley signature? But I think it also goes into a whole other, like, dark world of signatures.
Yeah.
Like, how much do celebrities, how much are they worth? And does it matter on how crisp it is? Can you see it? Is it visible? The quality, all that crap. And so somebody's asking for $59,000. I would pass, personally.
100%.
But on the low end of the spectrum, Shortbox has a CGC 0.5. It's barely held together for 139
What does that
bucks.
even look like? 0.5?
0.5 is probably missing the back cover,
Oh my God.
if not like a considerable amount of the book.
Why would you even
I don't know.
grade it?
Yeah, right. It's kind of like, especially when 9.2s and 9.4s are floating around, right? It's kind of like, dude.
That's what I'm saying.
And so yeah, 139 bucks for that. While on eBay, somebody has, I suspect it's the same seller, to be honest, a 0.5 as well for 200 bucks. So, yeah, that's interesting because it's like, again, it's a 0.5.
Yeah.
Whereas you can get a raw copy of it, not graded, for about $240.
Jeez.
You're better off just buying the raw copy,
Yeah.
slabbing that bad boy, and
Yeah.
making it worth at least 500 bucks.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so I checked the fair market value on this book, and 9.2 seems to be somewhere in the vein of 3,000 to about $4,500. So as long as you're within that sort of floating number, it's a good deal. So the one on Shortbox is too much. They're asking for too much. They're asking for almost twice as much as it's worth, so to speak. So it definitely helps to look at that little tab. I think people oversee it. But needless to say, is this your first exposure to the character?
I think so. I never really heard of Kang ever
right?
growing up.
Yeah, dude.
So has to be. What about you?
I think I want to say the same, but not the same, because this is again like when he came back into the fold. I was not hard into comics, and especially because they brought him very full force with the Young Avengers, which we'll get into, of course. And so I wasn't super duper heavy on them, and so I missed a lot of that. But I got familiar with him ironically, because of Nathaniel Richards first.
Yeah.
So Iron Lad is kind of more of the reason why I got to know Kang. And so going backwards and reading the stuff from the classic days, I was like, okay, interesting. It's interesting stuff. And it is as complex and as dense as we could imagine it to be. So it is very curious that Marvel decided to take this guy on as far as the MCU goes. And so I don't have any cards, but I had a couple of digital cards. Those freaking NFTs that go absolutely nowhere. I have one card, okay, and it said, Genius time traveler Kang the Conqueror was originally Nathaniel Richards, a 31st century descendant of Reed Richards.
Wow.
The villainous Kang travels through time with an arsenal of technology from any century and advanced battle armor that grants immense power.
Man, he sounds like, just unstoppable.
Yeah, and it's so crazy because there's so much to unpack in such a short paragraph.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, so he's related to Reed Richards, who, if you don't know by now, is Mr. Fantastic. And also, he's a 31st century descendant.
That's crazy.
He comes from a very, very distant future. And so we'll get into all of this in a second. And so, when Kang first introduces himself into in this issue of the Avengers, he says his name very proudly. He does not just say Kang. He's like, I am Kang the Conqueror. He pronounces himself very articulate, with the Conqueror at the end of his name. And so it's really funny because it was how I feel like they treated a lot of the outer space identities at this time. Because again, it's barely the mid 60s. My goodness, right? What was happening in this mid 60s? And so essentially this UFO comes into the atmosphere and everybody loses their minds. Like, whoa, it's a UFO. What is it doing here? And it hovers over Virginia, of all places. Just in they make it so distinct. It's over Virginia. And so the White House is immediately on the case, and they summon the Avengers to come handle the problem, so to speak. And again, like I mentioned, it's Iron Man, Thor, Cap, Ant-Man, Wasp, and Rick Jones. And of course, lest we forget, in this era of the Avengers, Ant-Man is very much Hank Pym, and Wasp is very much Janet Van Dyne. So already the sort of modernized formulations are starting to come together, right? So almost immediately, they already have connection between Kang and Ant-Man and Wasp.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes in, and then he pretty much takes care of them. It's easy peasy for him because he's showcasing all these futuristic skills that his suit has.
Of course, yeah.
his ship, all these
he just
built-in
has
mechanisms.
Everything, yeah.
All the technology you could Iron Man seems like he seems like a can of sardines compared to King. So it's kind of funny because if you think about it, right? How would the Avengers stop him? And he takes them out so easily that it's almost wow. I don't know that the modern Avengers could even handle him.
Yeah, I saw that one. What was it? It's an animated show, The Avengers.
Yeah.
And then where Kang is in it.
Yeah.
And basically just how do we stop this guy? Yeah. So I was like, how do they stop this guy?
Go on. Yeah, I've not seen it, but it's the same thing, right? So they're carrying over this idea of like, okay, well, he's unstoppable. What do we do?
Yeah.
And so he does what he does best. After all is said and done, they're all groaning. They're all on the floor. They're not sure what to do. And he's like, this is my perfect opportunity to explain my entire backstory. They always do this. Like Stan, and I mean, I'm sure it stands to blame, but they always do the sweeping origin story. And so he tells everybody he was like, he was born in the year 3000. Like distinctly 3000. It's been changed a little, I think. I think they said like 3125, whatever. But 3000, and then he became the master of time travel. And so he mentions how he even like, okay, so what, in a nutshell, he got bored. He got bored. So the world is devoid of crime, of war, of all that stuff. All they have are these digital callbacks to the past. So they watch Westerns, they watch whatever. And they're like, wow, it was such a different time. There was chaos and there was intrigue, and now it's just sterile peace.
Yeah.
And so to kind of alleviate his boredom, he goes back into the past, the distant past. And then he becomes Pharaoh Rama-Tut.
Jeez.
And so he goes to goes to the Egyptian times. And then he essentially builds his empire. And he's like, okay, cool, I'm a pharaoh. And then he's like, I'm bored again.
Jeez.
Then he jumps forward after, I believe he got defeated by the Fantastic Four, jumps forward again to present time, quote unquote. So this is, in the comic, it's in the 1964.
Yeah.
For us, it would be 2025. And so that said, technically Rama-Tut made his appearance before Kang did. Because in publication history, Fantastic Four number 19, with Rama-Tut's first appearance, was published October 10th, 1963. A full year before Kang the Conqueror was introduced in the Avengers number 8. And so,
interesting.
Yeah, and so while the Fantastic Four annual number 2 was released September 1st, 1964, the same as Avengers number 8, Rama-Tut still predates Kang. So it's kind of like, whoa, what did the whiteboard look like when Stan was doing this,
He's
right?
probably just like, I don't know, but
Yeah, he's gonna go back into the future.
It'll
right?
make sense at some point.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how you're like, okay, so a full year, like a month would have been one thing. A full year? And then he goes backwards and explains, oh yeah, by the way, that character that I introduced last year, that's this guy. And he went back. And so, funny enough, the Fantastic Four annual number 2, that also showcased the origin of Doctor Doom. So, again, immediately we're really relating this character to not only Ant-Man and Wasp in some way, but more strongly to the Fantastic Four. So he's got a lot of ties to Fantastic Four. And so it's interesting because people... Once, one of the biggest beefs about Quantumania was that, like, oh man, Kang got beat too easy, like, right? And so it's funny that, like people are like, oh, it's impractical that Ant-Man beat him. It's totally like that would never happen. It's funny because it makes me wonder if they read this issue, the origin issue, because sure he takes out the Avengers, but Rick Jones and Wasp get away. So Janet goes back to like Avengers HQ and she's like, I'll find something that Hank made that could take him out. Like they always do this. They did this in the
There's got to be
issue.
something.
Yeah, there's got to be something. I'll find it. And then Rick Jones is like, I'm going to assemble my teen brigade. And so a bunch of teens come out of the woodwork. Like, they've got this guy surrounded. They have like the FBI and the CIA, like all these guns and army people up against Kang, and then the teen brigade shows up. Just a bunch of regular teens. And they're like, we know how to do this. And they like basically coerce him. And they're like, yeah, we want to be bad like you.
Oh, wow.
And he believes them, lets them on the ship, and then they figure out, oh, let's free the Avengers, because he had them captive at this time. So it's like, guys, Ant-Man beating Kang isn't that far-fetched.
Yeah.
He let a bunch of teenagers get on his ship.
He was like, this isn't sketchy at all.
Yeah. And of course, so another battle ensues and they figure out like, oh, Thor's Mjolnir can essentially like mirror the radioactive energies that Kang was giving off because of the atmosphere that he's from and all that. So the suit is almost irradiated. So when he's like radiating the power and the energy to try and bring them down, Thor uses Mjolnir to mirror it back on him, but at a bigger force, and it destroys his suit, which then allows them, okay, we found the Achilles heel. Now we can take him down. And so the whole thing, the whole spectacle is very similar because it's all over this energy core that the Teen Brigade finds, right? And so this energy core is like the thing in the movie where he's like, I needed to fix this energy core so that my ship, whatever the heck, can work again.
Yeah.
So I can get out of the quantum realm, right?
Yeah.
And so in the comic, it's all over this energy thing, which when activated, empowered Kang. So I was like, okay, if you read it, they do have a lot of similarities. There's a lot of like parallels in some way. So it's kind of like, okay, I get it. I think it definitely helped me appreciate the film more because I'm starting to understand where they got stuff from. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. And so, in the very end of the comic, Ant-Man uses a special weapon created by Tony, ironically enough, that used this acid-based solvent to rot and decay fabric, wiring, or insulation. And so, so he flees to fight another day, and it goes for decades, And again, I feel like they tucked him away for a bit. They brought him back. They tucked him away again. And he didn't come back full force until I want to say after the year 2000. And that's when the Kang Dynasty happened.
Yeah,
I think
well,
it's
there
2000.
you go.
Yeah, exactly right. And so it's kind of like they always have these reemergences of the characters, right?
Yeah.
And so, but like when it comes to the nitty gritty of it, throughout the ages following the storyline got a little complicated because different writers, different titles, and all that stuff. And it isn't until What If number 39 that they actually confirmed Kang's true identity and real name being Nathaniel Richards. And in all titles, so I read a few articles and people were really trying to kind of debunk it, like, oh, it's not really his name because it was a what if issue. It's not canon. It's an alternate like whatever.
Sure.
So, but clearly it's been confirmed across the board. And of course, need we say, like Reed Richards' his father's name is actually Nathaniel Richards as well.
Interesting.
So, somewhere down the line, Reed's kids' kids.
Yeah.
Was like, we're going to name him after our great-great-great-grandfather. And so, it's more or less gotten pretty convoluted over the years with the retconning, because at one point they were like, he's possibly related to Doctor Doom. And it just wasn't like working.
Yeah.
Especially when they started introducing more variants and more alternate universes and stuff. So they just kind of not wiped the slate clean, but they concrete, solid made, okay, Kang related Richards. Done. And and again, he didn't come back into the spotlight until about 1998 with the Avengers, and then later the Kang Dynasty. And then even later than that with the Young Avengers. So that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Kang the Conqueror, portrayed by Jonathan Majors. First seen in 2021's Loki Season 1. And last seen now in Loki Season 2.
Yeah.
So, in the first appearance, it is worth saying he was regarded as He Who Remains.
Yeah.
Technically a different character. Completely different character in the comics.
But different variant of Kang.
Yeah, in the MCU, yeah.
Yeah, I remember, I remember when that reveal happened, I think we had known already that, like, oh, Jonathan Majors was casted as Kang. And you know how he looks like. 'Cause I didn't know who he was, honestly.
Yeah.
I never watched any of his previous movies. But then when he showed up at the season finale?
Yeah. No. I was going to say episode before. He's in 2 episodes total, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, that's the guy.
Yeah.
That's him.
Yeah.
So it was cool. And he played that variant so well, in my opinion. I guess, I mean, I didn't really see of like if there was like a comic book counterpart to He Who Remains, but from what he was trying to make the He Who Remains character seem like, I think he did a good job at it. Yeah, because he was just like he's not like deadly, he's not lethal. He's just like, I'm just trying to keep the peace here. Yeah. You know?
He's very forthright. Yeah. And I think that's what, I don't remember what I had said back in the day, but I remember thinking the performance was so great because he was able to sell the character's like essence so magnificently. Yeah. And you believed everything he was saying. Yeah. And it was like, oh God, he's like, and this is just one of him. Like, I was like, oh snap. And so it really opened up like, oh gosh, what is if this is his first of many appearances, we're in for a ride. Because this guy's already showing the nuances of this character that's supposed to be so dynamic. Like literally hundreds of thousands of versions of this character that have all come together in a weird way. I was like, shoot, like, they might be in trouble. And so when he ended up getting killed in the final episode, big spoiler alert, I was like, oh, I kind of liked that variant. But his foreboding words of being like it was like a red pill, blue pill situation.
Yeah, it was like wait until
yeah. He's like, you could run this place, or you can kill me, and then you have to deal with all of my more dangerous versions.
He's like, wait until you meet my other variants. Yeah. And I was like, ooh.
And then Sylvie does it anyway. Yeah. And so
because she's so hell bent on just revenge. Right. And then Loki is just like, yeah, maybe we should think this through. Yeah,
it was like the one time he did not choose mischief. He was kind of like,
he was like,
that actually sounds okay.
Like, I don't want to mess with this whole multiverse thing, you know?
Yeah. You know, and of course, you know, like, we've done an episode on Loki like way back in the day, way before, I think even it was just after the series, I think. But yes, yeah, it was. And so it's been a minute since we've even talked about Loki. We covered a little bit in our Thor episode as well, but man, there's like, you know, the whole time variance agency of it all is so massive. And so to then pair it with a character who is also so massive, that's a lot. So they've clearly set up this strategic path of this character. And so, again, being introduced to He Who Remains first is like, oh my God.
Definitely a solid introduction to that character.
Super. Yeah. Even if it was only technically an episode and a half, which in total is probably 15 minutes, maybe 10.
Probably.
Yeah. Such an impact immediately. And of course, as I put a cough drop in my mouth, of course, the added value that it was a domino effect. You see the effects of it immediately. Yeah. And so from there, I mean, we don't meet Kang until Ant-Man and the Wasp in Quantumania, and then are further introduced to his variants. So what did you think about He Who Remains versus Exile Kang versus any of the other kings?
I mean, it's obvious like why he was exiled. Yeah. He's just a man that just wants to take over everything. Right. Which is why, you know, post-credit scene of, you know, the movie where they're like, oh great. Yeah. Like, or like he's dead, but is he really though?
Right. Because what do we say? Well, if you learn nothing more from Squid Game, is that if you don't see a body on screen, there's no death. Yeah. It's not real. So they did label Exile Kang as like the most dangerous of them all. Yeah. Which is interesting. It's an interesting thought because it's like, okay, the guy's the most dangerous, but that doesn't mean he's the most powerful. Yeah. So I could see where people get a little butthurt because like people were so pissed that he got defeated, like, quote unquote, so easily. But I was like, dude, he's literally one of like a billion of them. Yeah. And just because he was the most dangerous doesn't necessarily mean he was the most powerful, which of course we come to see very quickly that there is a whole slew of variants that are.
And they're going to do something that I don't even know like what they're trying to do.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so I I liked the performance in Quantumania as well. And I thought he was played very well. Like it's like they gave you the storyline in such an interesting way because they didn't feed it to us completely, right? They did a really good way of shielding the truth, so to speak, by giving the backstory of Jan meeting him in the quantum realm.
Yeah.
And that he needed help and whatever, and they became friends, sort of, until, you know, they filled in the gaps and showed, oh, by the way, yeah, he was just using her all along to get this thing for his throne.
Because if he gets that chair up and running,
right,
he's like, I'm killing everything.
Yeah, for fun.
I'm taking over every universe,
for fun.
because I can.
You're right, exactly. Which is kind of like, Thanos is looking real good right now.
That's what I'm saying.
Like he was, it's like the mug said, Thanos was right, dude. It's like.
To a degree, he was.
Yeah, he just wanted balance within the universe, and then this guy, he's quite literally, it's to do it for personal entertainment.
He's basically a billionaire. He just does stuff.
he just does stuff. Yeah, right.
Just
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. And then of course we're introduced to at the end of the film. Well, the Stingers first. We're introduced to Ramatut, as well as. Immortus. So Ramatut is obviously the pharaoh.
Yes.
Immortus is the one with the tall hat thing. And then the other one is presumably Scarlet Centurion, who we'll talk a little bit about as well. And then of course the Council of Kangs that are in the arena. It's just like
whoa. Like I wonder what they're gonna team up. I wonder what they're going to team up to do.
Exactly. And so we got a listener question. Super fanboy guy, do you think that Kang's alliance with Doctor Doom should be explored in the MCU?
I mean, I think that'd be super interesting.
Well, question for you. Do you think, without even, like, you don't need the context of the comics at all, but do you think that them taking the route of this is the gateway to the Fantastic Four, perhaps, coming in?
I mean, possibly. Because I feel like that's like the next big, like, quote unquote team up, I guess. Because you can only do like Avengers stuff so long. You know, you're introducing all these different heroes. Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to have like, quote unquote, an Avengers movie every 5 years. I don't know. Yeah, whatever. Right. Yeah. It's like, I think it's like, okay, like, And I think because like the first like round of Avengers was done so well.
Yeah.
It's like okay, we're just gonna see the same, and like I've seen it on like
for sure.
I've seen it on like social media where it's just like oh wow, the next Avengers is, it's like Shang-Chi or Hawkeye or it's kind of like who is it really compared to like the original 6 going to Endgame. So I think Fantastic Four kind of keeps the MCU fresh.
Mm-hmm. Are they the next big thing before? Like, are they?
I don't even think they've announced. Like, I don't even know if
they don't have a date yet, right?
No, I don't think so.
Dang.
And with everything getting pushed back and everything, who knows?
I know it's floating at this.
No
time,
one.
right?
I don't even know who's gonna get. We don't even know who's gonna get casted. Let alone there's a script. I think Matt Shackman was supposed to direct. Oh no, I'm sorry. John Watts was supposed to direct.
Well, that's right. Yeah, and he backed out.
He backed out. So it's like, who knows where that is?
And casting rumors galore, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like who knows what can happen? Like I'm just saying, just let the dominoes fall how they be.
For sure.
If you're interested in seeing it, watch it. If not, it's fine.
Yeah, I think exploring the alliance, maybe not so much. Like I don't think.
Maybe it could be like a passing of the torch. Like once Kang is done his thing, then it's like okay, boom, now we introduce Doctor Doom and what he can do.
Maybe because as silly as it may sound, I find Doctor Doom in comparison to be almost like a street level. Because he's a genius scientist intellect.
Yeah,
surely, but despite how like insanely powerful he is represented as in the comics at times, I wouldn't put him at the same gauntlet as Kang per se.
Sure.
I don't know. Okay. Maybe that's completely wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. Okay. They're not. It's like God, who's a comparison? It's like
Yeah.
Juggernaut and like a Cull Obsidian. I don't know.
Like they're just
you know
not
what I mean?
the same. Like it may seems like they're the same, but in reality,
Sure.
they're kind of not.
Yeah, they have like if you were to put apples and oranges.
Like Doctor Doom is not otherworldly.
Right. Yes, he's not like galactic. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like Kang feels so much more further beyond
Like not from Earth.
that. Yeah, like I could see like Doctor Doom in a space station, but I couldn't see him taking over galaxies of alternate universes sweeping across. And especially
That's fair.
the way that they're sort of establishing Kang in the MCU the way that they are. I feel like he's already outgrown an affiliation with Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
I could see a callback for sure.
Maybe.
Like I could see a callback, like a throwback in another timeline. Because I mean, Victor Timely, the name alone, Dr.
Victor Von Doom.
Exactly. So the name is already kind of there
Yeah.
if they decide to go that sort of route. But lest we forget, who knows? Kevin Feige knows. That's all. That's the only person who knows right now. So I guess we'll see. Hopefully, one day soon.
Yeah.
So for the rest of the structure of our show, I moved things around
Yes.
like crazy.
Nice.
It's not at all the same. So we're going to jump into other versions and in other media immediately, simply because he has variants.
Of course he
On
did.
variants, on variants, on
God.
variants. So, first off, this is not a pop quiz. Can you name all the ones that have shown their faces in the MCU so far?
Oh
By
my
name.
God.
So the exiled one is dead. You sure he's dead? If it wasn't true, I wouldn't call you. Must really eat you up that you're not the one who killed him. None of us killed him. They did.
Well, the three that we mentioned earlier,
Yes.
at the end of the stinger,
Okay.
Immortus,
Yeah.
Pharaoh dude.
Yeah. Pharaoh, dude.
I see the head. I see the headpiece. He's a pharaoh.
I think that's also perhaps my favorite aesthetic looking one because they really nailed it.
Yeah.
It looks amazing.
Oh God, what was the third guy's name? The third guy.
Yeah.
So Kang,
Yeah.
and then He Who Remains.
Yeah.
So that's 6. Is there one more?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, you said Victor Timely already, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You're good.
Ooh. That's 6 out of like 1,500.
No. I was like, okay, so so we'll go down the list and then just very quickly identify them. And so first off, He Who Remains, again, we've been introduced to in Loki. So in the comics, I believe this was also in the show, he is essentially the last director of the TVA who existed at the end of the current universe, but before the next. So yeah, there's this, I believe they say it in the show, there's this little pocket of time, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like the null, like a space where time doesn't necessarily exist, but it's after the present tense and it's before the future. And so in the comics, it's essentially the same. And like I mentioned before, he's a completely separate character from Kang altogether. And so I found that apparently Marvel allowed Jonathan Majors to portray this character like he wasn't intended to initially. It was supposed to be a different person at first, but then they thought, oh gosh, this guy is so versatile.
Yeah.
Let's just have him do it, and then let's also write it in that it is a variant of Kang. And so that's what happened. And so in the comics also, He Who Remains had some like side ventures with Thor and Jane Foster.
Oh wow.
Against them, not with them, clearly, but they
Yeah.
went toe to toe with him back in the day. And then there's Exile Kang, who we've met in Quantumania, and he the whole subject of his entire existence is really just because he wanted to be the only one. So that's what made him more dangerous than the rest, is because the others seem to have like this understanding that there's a coexisting of them.
Yeah. But we need to help each other out.
Exactly. They all want to conquer, so to speak. And this one was like, I have to be the only one.
Like, nah.
Yeah. And so that's why they were like, no, and banished him. And then there's Pharaoh Ramatut. And so, yeah, we've talked about him a little bit already, but he appears at the end of Quantumania, aside Immortus and seemingly a version of Scarlet Centurion. And then Immortus himself, so he's the soft-spoken one. That's the one I think, presentation-wise, he kind of surprised me because his voice was so quiet and so calm, and he was like, it kind of made him creepier. But he's also supposedly the oldest of them all, and he lived. He basically endured all of the wars, the battles, the struggles of the universe, and so he's kind of like he's the settled down version of Kang, who is also lost.
He's seen some stuff, basically.
Yeah, and he's lost an immeasurable amount. So it's kind of not softened him, but it's grounded him in a way. And so he's almost like an elder of sorts, right? And so he's often regarded as the prime Kang. And then I made a sidebar for the Council of Kangs and the Kang Collective, as they're called in the comics. And so they essentially gather in this thing called the Transtemporal Hub World, which they've pretty much renamed as Limbo. So that, like, I don't know if this is reflective of where they met in the film, but that arena of Kangs, supposedly the gathering place is Limbo, because it's almost, you know what I'm saying here.
They can't meet on each other's home universe.
Exactly.
I get,
And so it's essentially turned into a survival of the fittest, because in the comics, Kang, again, he's not so much as like he needs to dominate everything, but he's a conqueror, right?
Yeah.
There's almost like a survival of the fittest sort of mentality among them.
Yeah.
So if there's a weak version of himself, and so in the MCU's case, the one that wanted to be the only one, they all kind of gang up and they oust and they kill the weaker versions. And so I was reading, which one was it? Oh, they killed a variant called Kangaroo the Conqueror.
That's so...
From the Animalverse.
Gosh.
Because he was just a kangaroo. And they're like, you're not fit to be one of us. And they killed him.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it's a lot of that. A lot of that is happening. And then, of course, Scarlet Centurion. And so he's a little tricky because somebody else has taken on the moniker of Scarlet Centurion since Kang was that moniker. And so in the comics, essentially in the very beginning, it's another moniker that Ramatut takes on after he's done being Ramatut. He's like, he puts on a red helmet and he's like, I'm the Scarlet Centurion now.
Yeah.
Same first appearance, which is funny. And then Victor Timely. And so after his defeat at the hands of the Avengers, a divergent version of Kang set up shop in Timely, Wisconsin in 1901.
Wow.
So from there, he established the realm known as Chronopolis in the comics, intersection of Earth's past, present, and future. And then it's in the MCU, I don't even think they've named it, but it's that city he begins to build. Once all the parts are together and the thing starts to expand. Yes. That's Chronopolis. Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought it was the other thing.
So in Ant-Man, Quantumania. Yeah.
It's how that God, I probably should have watched it more than once or twice. How many times did you see Quantumania? I think I saw it twice.
I think I just saw it once.
Oh, really? I liked it more the second time. But anyway, that's Chronopolis, which I'm sure they'll probably tackle different versions of it. Like, who knows? And then there's a version of Kang that we have not met yet, but is so crucial to the storyline, Iron Lad. And so, again, we've talked about him a little bit. I think it was our Kate Bishop episode.
Yeah.
He's essentially a younger version of Kang who he wants to change the course of his life. So future Kang comes back, is like, look at the world that you can conquer and you can be so powerful and awesome like me. And he's like, you're scary and evil. I don't like that. I want to be good and a hero. So he decidedly changes the course of his life and he becomes a hero. And so equipped with Iron Man-like armor and Vision's data. So he's equipped with Vision's... of course, he's an alternate universe. So in that universe, Vision is uploaded into his suit rather than the traditional Friday or Sharon or Karen. And so he then forms the Young Avengers with heroes from the main timeline. And then he dates Cassie Lang, which I might jump ahead here for a little bit. But so it's, you think Nathaniel Richards, Cassandra Lang. And so they're together. But in another universe... they get together, they grow old together, they have children together. That's the version that Immortus was also experienced. He also experienced.
Oh.
So, and then also special shout out to Baby King. Because there's a Baby King right now, and he's so sweet.
Oh, wow.
And unsuspecting. And it's kind of like Baby Thanos, but nobody's killed him yet. And then, so we're going to move on to aesthetics. And so, yeah, it's green and purple for days. Like we've mentioned in the Green Goblin and Gwen Stacy episodes, green and purple is frequently a sign of scientific hubris growing out of control. And then, we want to talk about scientific hubris. That's Kang. That's his middle name. Purple symbolizes creativity, but in comics, it can often be refined. To creation of powerful science. So... combine that with green's growth or nature, and you have a combination that suggests monstrous scientific geniuses. And again, Green Goblin, Gwen Stacy, Hulk, Mysterio.
Yeah.
Green and purple. Lizard, green and purple.
Oh, yeah.
Purple pants.
Yeah.
When he wore pants.
Yeah, fair.
And then, so with the vast spectrum of variations that Kang has, there doesn't seem to be one commonality, but the purple and green stands out, the most iconic of them all. And so there you can kind of see, there's obviously, and if you look in our doc, Jeff, like I even put the side-by-side, the Council of Kang picture. So it's like their intentionality of like, okay, they're all going to have green and purple in common in some fashion. It's there. They're trying for it. They may look different otherwise, but they're definitely trying for it. And so, they've taken some liberties with bringing the character to life, ensuring that the mask and face thing is definitely an effect of the helmet. Because I swear that at one point, or at least one of the versions, like the blue is his face.
Yeah.
And so in the first introduction, it's a helmet. So they like distinctly, like you can see, it's like the Batman thing where you can see the
colored
eye.
in.
Yeah, you can see the color. And so... I don't know if over time maybe I misread or whatever, but I swear that it's like actually part of his physiology. Whereas in the MCU, of course, they've kind of introduced these very distinct scars down his face, which they still haven't yet explained for the record. So that'll be an interesting backstory, right? That sort of replicate what he looks like in the comics. So that's pretty cool. And then... Kang's armor, of course, possesses nanotech similar to that of Iron Man and Spider-Man's in the MCU suits, but stronger and more durable than vibranium. And it's identified as neurokinetic, which means it basically does whatever he thinks. So it responds to his subconscious thoughts, as well as empowering him with super strength comparable to that of an Eternal.
Jeez. And those guys have all the powers, too.
And they do. And so speaking of powers and paraphernalia for Kang, so I just put intelligence. That's his number one power. He doesn't have powers. He has no innate powers. It's all technology based. It's all power based from his brain. And it's both his superior level intelligence as well as his learned smarts from time traveling across multiverses that keeps him light years ahead of everybody else. And so it's just the game, the being ahead of the game. That's all it is. And so it's kind of like, I know you don't play Marvel Snap,
I don't know.
But Kang is in Marvel Snap. He's a card in there. And so when people play Kang, they can... It literally... there's this whole animation. It rewinds the game.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Sorry. Let me correct myself. It rewinds the round so that the person that played it can see what you played.
Ooh.
And so they go back to before you both play, and Kang goes away, and now they're like, I know what you played. Now I know what to rule out.
Wow.
So that's essentially what he does. He's like, okay, so that's why the line that he says in Quantumania, like, have I defeated you before?
Yeah.
Is so crucial because it's like, oh, snap. Like, how many times?
Like, who is this guy faced?
Yeah. And so I mean, for me, I immediately got the idea that, okay, he has battled variations of Ant-Man or whatever his name is at the time many, many times over to the point that he doesn't even remember him. But if he ever failed at some point, he probably jumped back, figured it out, and went, okay, last time he did this time I'm going to get him with X, Y, Z. And so he never loses, basically.
Yeah.
Which is like one of the scariest things of them all, because we saw what Thanos did in Infinity War.
Yeah, with Vision.
Time Stone.
Yeah.
He was like, okay, I made an error. Actually, rewind. And so imagine that times
exactly
1 billion.
I'd be so pissed.
Crazy. And so beyond that, Kang has, like I said, no innate powers. However, he displays increased lifespan as well as political savvy. He's a skilled combatant and has indomitable will. And so aside that, he does have armor. The battle armor itself derives from a rare synthetic alloy from the 40th century. And again, is neurokinetic, so it responds to all his subconscious thoughts. It enables him with enhanced strength, durability, anti-gravity, a video communicator, which sounds really fancy. Time travel, which also allows for chrono-cloning. So he can basically put... I believe he can clone himself in a way that he can be displaced in different places at the same time. But they're all sharing the same
like that one
thought.
in Infinity War with Doctor Strange where he like...
Yeah. Yes. When he does the...
I hope so.
Hundreds of Stranges. Yeah.
Yes.
Something like that. Concussive bolts, various weaponry, and in modern times, body transference at the time of death. So... So
that sucks.
That's an interesting thought if you think about Quantumania. So if the MCU Exile Kang has that capability, he transferred himself and switched bodies. He's not dead. That body is dead, but he's up and jumped into somebody else. Well, another Kang's body. Sorry. Yeah. Is what I should say. Yeah. So that might be what happened. And so in the MCU, it's pretty similar. The added value of superhuman reflexes, energy projection, telekinesis, portal creation, and platform creation, which is very distinct to Quantumania. Yeah, literally everything. He's Dragon Ball Z on like speed. You know what I mean? Like he can do all these like crazy manifestations and power bursts. And so there's also emphasis of him being a master scientist, engineer, combatant, as well as expert marksman. And according to writer Jeff Loveness, he says about the Kang in Quantumania, this variant of Kang is the most dangerous out of all of his variants. And so, like I said before, most dangerous, though not most powerful. So we'll see. We'll see where the rest of them stand. Next up, family, friends, and affiliations. I mean, he don't got no friends, so
I don't expect him to.
Yeah, exactly. So
looks like he's hated by everybody.
Yeah, so we're going to discuss some other things in this particular quote-unquote section. But first off, there's Ms. Minutes.
Yeah, howdy, y'all.
Howdy, y'all.
I devoured that donut, by the way.
Did you? Yeah, that's right. So I got Jeff one of those Ms. Minutes donuts we mentioned them in the last episode.
It was haunting.
Wasn't it great?
It was haunting after you heat it up.
Oh, really?
Well, because the eyes was like, oh my God. The frosting, the icing. Funny. I was like, oh my God. But it was good.
It was delicious. And so shock to no one, there is no comic book counterpart of Ms. Minutes. She was purely made for the MCU. Of course, voiced by voice actor legend Tara Strong.
The goat of voice actors.
Yeah, she's incredible.
My childhood, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Harley Quinn, baby. So Ms. Minutes herself is AI created by He Who Remains that aids with the time variance authority. Sorry, I said agency earlier. Authority. And distinctly a liaison between He Who Remains and the TVA judge, Ravonna. I said this last time we mentioned her.
Ravonna?
Ravonna.
Ravonna. But it looks like it's Ravonna.
I feel like it's Ravonna. I don't remember.
But I feel like they've said...
Because
I've heard Owen Wilson say Ravonna.
Is it Ravonna?
Like, come on, Ravonna.
Okay. Ravonna.
Yeah.
So Ravonna Renslayer. And fun fact, Ms. Minutes was inspired by none other than Mr. DNA from Jurassic Park.
Oh my gosh.
Dinosaurs.
I barely even remember that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what he says, but he has like his version of howdy y'all. And he goes, hey y'all.
Wow.
And he's
I have
like,
to rewatch
I'm here
that.
to talk to you about DNA. And it's like, it's
very...
once you think about it, you're like,
Is it on the ride also? Is that voice
no,
on the...
not at all. No.
Pain.
Not even in the original one, which is kind of shocking. Yeah. But he's made a comeback. He's got merchandise everywhere.
Love that.
There's a Mr. DNA pop now.
There's a pop for everything.
Yeah,
Holy
right?
crap.
Which, of course, that leads us to the Time Variance Authority themselves. And so in the comics, they're led by a character named Mr. Alternity. So...
Whoa.
I know. When I was writing this up, I was like, oh man, all these names might come up in the first episode of Loki. But in the comics, they are indeed led by Mr. Alternity, and the TVA serves as an organization formed to monitor realities throughout the multiverse and to keep temporal interference to a minimum. And they dedicate themselves to keeping tabs on every reality that exists. Sounds like a hefty duty. And in the comics, the TVA is also located in the null time zone, existing out of time. So it's pretty parallel as far as the MCU is concerned. But they're, of course, like we mentioned, they're created, quote unquote, created by He Who Remains instead. And they keep the timeline clean and in order. But everything else seems to track. They keep tabs on everything that's happening.
I wonder how it operates now then with the new season and he's dead.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of like, all right. So
well, and also we have to remember that at the end of Loki season 1, when Loki is transported back.
So that's a different universe, or is that the same?
Right. He was in an alternate universe because the statues were different.
Yes. So, and Owen Wilson, Mobius did not know who he was talking about. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Right. So,
I mean, as we're recording this is tomorrow, so it's like, I can't wait to see.
I know, and it's like 6 p.m., which is like interesting. I was like, oh,
you can't stay up late anymore. Yeah.
So, but yeah, the TVA, they've clearly made their mark already. Like, it's such an interesting retroactive atmosphere.
Yeah,
you know, and at first, you know, it was interesting to kind of follow like what they were doing, because it was like, who are all these people? Where are they coming from? Why are they so established the way they are? Mm-hmm. And then of course we'd come to realize like, oh, they've been pruned from other universes, and they're variants of themselves that have been displaced.
That's scary.
And reassigned. Yeah. It reminds me a little bit of Severance.
Haven't seen it.
Oh, really? I finally watched it.
I am really horrible with shows.
Yeah, it's really well. It's also on Apple TV, so it's a little more challenging to watch, just to like get access to, because you have to either pay for it, like an additional streaming service. But yeah, I watched that, and it seemed a little bit like TVA. It's a little bit not like it, but there are some similarities for sure, where there's some alternate lives, I guess, happening. But yeah, and then, of course, there are also the timekeepers. And so, again, they're not friends of Kang. However, in the comics, they were created by He Who Remains, who wanted to create beings who could teach the next universe. So they were actually fostered to be educators about, okay, the wise ones.
Yeah.
More or less. Let's pass on the history. And so he created various versions of these people in the comics, and they're actually the perfected version. And his first failed attempt were called the Time Twisters. Time Twisters.
Sounds like a kid's game.
Yeah, and so they're actually the Timekeepers themselves are the perfect iteration of those Time Twisters. And so, while the Timekeepers were created to refer back to the past and to make the future better, the Time Twisters malfunctioned, simply moving backward. And so that's the storyline that I believe Thor and Jane Foster came into play, because that's when they were pitted against He Who Remains to stop that from continuing. And then, of course, the Timekeepers in the MCU are voiced by Jonathan Majors, although he is uncredited for the roles. And so it was conveyed that the Timekeepers were formed from the multiversal war, first battling one another for supremacy, but then later bringing peace by reorganizing it into a single timeline known as the Sacred Timeline. Despite the propaganda shown throughout the series, we eventually get that big reveal moment. Oh my God, do you remember when you first saw this?
Yeah, I was like,
robots.
These guys aren't real, man.
Who was it? Was it Sylvia or Ravonna? Like, who hit? I forgot who did it.
One of them, or Loki too.
Decapitated the robot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they were just relaying messages coming direct from He Who Remains. And so, for what it's worth, the Time Twisters do also exist in the MCU, but they're just the devices that they use, the TVA. Those are called Time Twisters. And so they've basically, it's an Easter egg. So they're there, but just not the same thing. But yeah, so Timekeepers, that reveal was, it was very Wizard of Oz moment behind the curtain. Like, haha, we're not real.
Sorry. And they're like, oh, gotta do this again?
Right. Yep. Man, it's all coming back to me now, but completely out of order.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those are the affiliations that Kang has in the comics, at least the ones that we can see in the MCU. And as for love interest, so again, an honorable mention to Cassandra, Cassie Lang. And so, as previously mentioned, Cassie and Young variant of Kang, Nathaniel Richards, are a couple, and even end up together in Mortis's timeline. And then, of course, Cassie Lang herself, portrayed by Catherine Newton. They duke it out, but there's no other... I mean, maybe that's a little nod to what's to come.
Sure.
But that's all we got so far.
Yeah.
They duke it out in Quantumania. And then the one in prime love interest, I would say, is Ravonna.
That's interesting.
Lexis Renslayer, a.k.a. Terminatrix in the comics.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so in the comics, the main Ravonna. See, I'm gonna say Ravonna because of Nirvana. Dang, Ravonna.
I like Ravonna.
Ravonna existed in Earth 6311, and so that Earth is known as the Kang Dynasty. Buzzwords again. As well as 4145 AD. So that's the actual year in which the Kang Dynasty became or exists. So it's much further in the future. And in the comics, Ravonna herself is the daughter of King Corellius, a ruler in the 40th century Earth, where Ravonna is a princess with whom Kang fell in love with. She pulled a Princess Jasmine on him. She was like, I can't marry him. He's not royalty.
Jeez.
And so she kind of like puts off his advances, and because of the way that Kang is, he then waged war on her and her kingdom. He's like, okay, well, if you won't come with me willingly, I will conquer you.
Damn.
There's a theme. And so Ravonna herself has had an interesting background. So, and it's quite different from what we've seen on screen so far. So it'll be interesting to cover in the future when she's got a little more going for her in the MCU. Who, of course, Ravonna Lexis Renslayer. It's such a cool name. I'm like, dude, Ravonna.
I know, that's really cool. Anything with Slayer in it, it's pretty insane. Gugu Mbatha-Raw.
Look at you.
Yeah. Hey.
portrayed by Gugu Bantha. You said it better than I did. Yeah, portrayed in the MCU so wonderfully, by the way. She's fantastic. And so Ravonna herself is a variant of Ohio-based schoolteacher Rebecca Tormenay, who was abducted from the Sacred Timeline and then joined the ranks of the TVA, known formally as Hunter A23. So she's gone through a few name differences in the show. Like she's first introduced as Judge, right? And then Hunter A23, and then they're like Ravonna or Judge Ravonna or Rav, and then they're like, oh, plot twist, she's a variant of a variant, so she's Rebecca, and it's like, oh my gosh, that whole thing is just, oh my god, I need to revisit it.
Yeah, can't wait to see where
she goes, right?
Yeah, because I remember at the end of season 1, like I don't know who was like questioning her, like, don't you want to know where you came from?
I think it was Sylvie.
Was it Sylvie?
I think so, yeah.
Like, don't you want to know where you came from? And she's like, no, like I am the head of TVA. I have to keep things in order. And then it's like, oh shoot, gets to her. So like,
oh, maybe it was
Mobius. Oh,
yeah.
It was Mobius because they were having a talk in the
I just remembered because of jet skis.
Yeah, jet skis. Like, haven't you always wanted to know if you wanted to? Yeah. I've always wanted to ride a jet ski.
Right.
I have these dreams about jet skis.
Get the man a jet ski.
Yeah, and then so I think that kind of like prompted her, and that's why she was able to. She took one of the things, and I think she went back to see where she came from.
Time twister.
Yeah, time twister. Jesus.
Yeah. Or they call it a tempad.
Tempad. Mm-hmm. See, there you go. That's way better.
It's so much better. Yeah. So yeah. There's like a lot's gone down with her, and there's like miles to go. Clearly, but we do see in the Loki season 2 trailer, and perhaps in this first episode, that she encounters Victor Timely. So, is this the moment where we're actually going to get some of their backstory?
Maybe.
Because we've not been introduced to Rebecca's like potential husband in that timeline, like any of that stuff. So it could be another version of Kang.
Maybe it's, Mobius and Loki, they go to that time with Loki.
Yeah.
Or when they go to that time where Victor Timely, and they're watching and they're like, oh yeah. And then boom, like Ravonna comes in. You're like, what the hell is she doing here?
Right, exactly.
And you're like, ah.
Right. Because where was the stinger for that? Was that in Doctor Strange with Loki?
Yes. Ant-Man.
Was it Ant-Man?
Yeah, it was Ant-Man.
Oh, what was it? Yeah, Ant-Man. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, yeah, it was the second one. It was a very post-credit one.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Oh my God, we're totally slipping, dude.
We've lost our way. We've lost it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's really interesting. I definitely want to cover her when we get further into the weeds with the MCU version, because again, like her moniker in the comics, Terminatrix. I'm just like,
that's crazy.
And it's funny because I didn't realize when I was going through my folders, I have Terminatrix cards.
Oh wow.
And I was like, I don't know who this person is. And then I was looking I was like, oh my God, it's Ravonna. I was like, oh.
Wow, well, that's crazy.
Yeah. So there's that. We'll talk about her more in the future, I'm sure. We did get a listener comment, however related, Vibranium Queen on Instagram. Yeah, Kang, who hurt you? Because right?
Man has been through it.
It's just like, is that the cost of intellect though? Like you just get bored.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
And you don't think anything's wrong with it. You're just like, well, this is like what I want to do. So it's like, whatever,
Right. It's just a personality. It's just a thing. It's just how they go about. Like I heard Einstein only slept 4 hours a day.
That sucks.
If even that, right? Like
I'm trying to sleep like 12 hours a day.
No, I'm more like Einstein. I'm not as smart as he, but I do have that 4-hour sleep in common. But yeah, I think for once, I will say, quote unquote, for once, it's not a hero that was a villain that was wronged by anybody. That's just how he is.
Yeah.
It's just his persona and what he's taken on. So notable adversaries.
Who?
His biggest adversary is himself.
Yeah.
Literally.
True.
Because that's what it is. So there's really no better explanation than that.
Yeah.
So we're just going to quickly talk about the other two heroes that he has primarily, quote unquote, gone against in the MCU so far. Of course, first, Loki. No specific correlation in the comics. So it's an interesting treatment and story that they've built up using the 2012 Loki to get to this point at all. Because, I could not find anything that was like necessarily pertinent to Kang's backstory. And of course, Loki, portrayed by Tom Hiddleston, first seen in 2011's Thor. Last seen 2023 Loki season 2.
Been doing it forever.
I know.
Love it.
That's crazy. 12 years, baby. Season debut this weekend. He's amazing.
Can't wait.
He was added to New York Comic Con too.
Wow.
And I'm also going to see him again because I got it as a gift. So now I have to dig out my Loki poster from the depths of the garage because I'm going to meet him again. So that's going to be nice. But most recently, Kang has encountered Ant-Man.
You think this is new to me? Do you know how many rebellions I have put down? No. How many worlds I've conquered? How many Avengers I've killed? And you think you can beat me? I am Kang! You talk to ants.
Who, in the comics, again, the Avengers are clearly his biggest adversaries beside himself. So, we need to remember, again, the Ant-Man that Kang went toe-to-toe with was Hank Pym. So, I'm sure he met Scott Lang somewhere down the line because of Cassie, especially because of Cassie. Yeah, and so his beef with the ant family, so to speak, has gone.
My man's beefing with ants, bro.
Yeah, he's beefing with
Sheesh.
ants. So it's really ingrained. So it's again, in defense of Quantumania, it's not that far-fetched that's how that he made his first debut.
Yeah.
Because it's ingrained in his comic book history.
Yeah.
So everybody that is naysaying, screw you.
Sorry.
We don't write the comics. But yeah, he's gone through it with Ant-Man, especially because of Cassie Lang. So it is very interesting that they would kind of use Quantumania as a jumping point to introduce the two and the other two going head to head. And of course, Ant-Man, portrayed by Paul Rudd, first seen in 2015's Ant-Man, directed by Peyton Reed. Holy moly, he's getting up there too.
I know.
He's almost there.
Oh my God, it's almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years.
God.
Isn't that wild? It's like, oh my gosh.
Sheesh.
I'll admit, 2015 feels like forever ago at this point.
I was...
Shut up.
Well, I'm trying to remember what because I think about this like pretty... I think about this more...
6 years old.
I think about this more often than not. I'm like, where was I during this time?
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, so 2015... Oh, I was in art school.
I was helping release another album.
Oh, wow.
With 30 Seconds to Mars.
Yeah, see?
New album. Now streaming.
Nice.
I did my part.
Nice. Like, it feels like so long ago, right? Like, I was
sure.
like such a different person.
Really?
And like my knowledge was so like...
Were you not still working with us though?
2015.
Because I remember I was sitting on that weird leveled area.
I got laid off that year.
Oh, you did. You may have still been there because
I was still there.
You were still there?
Oh,
because
no. Whenever,
sure?
Yeah, whenever Yasser left, that's when I left.
I don't remember because I do distinctly remember I got free passes to see Ant-Man from Marvel. Mm-hmm. And so I went to go see it. And I think I talked to you about it and how I'd seen it already. And you were like, how'd you go see it already? And I was like, oh.
Maybe, possibly, but maybe not.
Yeah, I don't remember if you were there, though.
Probably not.
Dang, that's so weird to think about.
Weird times.
Oh, my gosh.
Weird times.
Almost 10 years ago.
Gross.
And so, of course, Ant-Man last seen in Quantumania. What was I going to say? Quantumania. And so... Yeah, I mean, what more is there to say? I will say I did leave Janet Van Dyne off of this list.
I mean, she kind of like gets
She's all
roped in.
Yeah, she gets roped in.
It's the Anne family.
It's really the it's really the Anne family. Yeah, and same goes in the comics. Like it's coincidental. Like she's part of the Avengers. It's not specifically because she is Janet Van Dyne. You know.
Yeah.
So it's not like a focused adversary. It just comes with the territory. And so yeah, like we mentioned before, Kang is ultimately defeated by Ant-Man. When he throws the Pym particle discs into the multiversal engine core. So that's, I think, and I think it is correct, it's the same core that they talked about in his first appearance in the comics. And in the MCU, it's the power source of the time sphere, which let him basically, you know, reindeer and sleigh across the multiverse in his little throne with the cup holder. Yeah, but we didn't see a body. So, I mean, not that there would be much of a body left, but...
I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, because then by that proxy, we would say that the High Evolutionary was also still alive. But they did have an alternate. Did you see that?
I did see that alternate.
Yeah, he was not killed in the other cut of the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. But I digress. I'm pretty sure that Kang is dead and gone. So, for Almost Was, I could not find much about others at all who auditioned for the role, but Jonathan Majors revealed he almost walked out of the audition. Have you heard this story?
No.
So basically, it was like Seraphin was running late because of LA traffic, and he was tired of waiting, so he almost got up and left.
Wow.
But they got the call that she was literally coming in, and he was like, all right, sat back down. And then rest is history.
Wow.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, I don't know who else may have been cast or potentially cast, but I'm sure that the list was short because, you know, like we've said this in a few episodes that it seems with these more recent additions, they already know who they want because of something they did prior. So I don't doubt that Jonathan Majors was kind of part of that batch of like, they saw one thing and they're like,
Seraphin, I didn't know, also did, Ahsoka.
Yep.
I was like, oh.
Sure did.
I was like, goat.
Yeah.
She knows.
Yeah, she knows what she's doing. And so the future of the character in the MCU. So again, this is part one of a character we're probably going to talk about at least twice on his own.
Yeah.
Not to mention the mini Marvels that he's likely going to be roped into.
Yeah.
So we've barely scraped the surface with him, and he's barely scraped the surface in the MCU. So, halfway through his current tenure in the MCU is presumed to be, we're currently halfway through it right now, which is kind of crazy to think about.
I know.
So he still has quite a ways to go. His Phase 6, 2026, like maybe that might change to 27.
Which is insane, which is technically crazy because that's like a little over 3 years from now. I'm sorry.
Closer.
4 years.
Closer than 2023 was to 2020.
Ugh.
Which is crazy, gross. Right? You think about it like that, you're like, ugh.
We're closer to 2030 than we are to 2000.
That's really scary.
It's gross.
It's really scary.
I'll probably throw up.
Oh, I'm gonna die. Yeah, so we're barely halfway through his tenure. So he's got a while to go. He's got a lot of lives to ruin, sadly. So, but yeah, beyond Loki, where do you think he could go next? Do you think Victor Timely is the only one we'll see in this version, in this season?
I feel like it's like the main version we'll focus on. Like I think he'll arrive earlier in the series rather than we don't see Kang until
Kang or Victor Timely.
Victor Timely.
Okay.
Like we won't like see him at the end of the season. Like
right.
He's gonna be a prominent figure
from the get go. Yeah, it would only be logical considering they closed out Quantumania with that.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, like we've established who Kang is and like what his variants are. So like, okay, like what's this one? Now it's like it's pretty much a new, even though it's the same like actor and same like character, like but they're still all different personalities. So we're gonna like explore their personality, how they are, how they think.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, so it'll be interesting to hear about that.
Did he have a transatlantic accent? I don't remember.
I forget. No, I can't even remember how he was talking. No,
I don't think he did.
I think it just sounded old timely.
Yeah. I think he was just sophisticated, older man. Yeah.
So
damn, I wanted a transatlantic.
I'm excited to see.
Yeah, I'm super stoked. I'm very curious of that character, especially. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I love the retro, and that's what I love about Loki in general. Is he the only one that will appear? I want to say no. I want to say we might see a little more of one that we haven't been so familiar with.
Maybe a couple more, but I'm not really banking on it.
I agree that Victor will probably be the most prominent. We did get one last listener question. Andrew Frank, 17.
Woo!
Who do you think will be the Iron Man of Avengers Kang Dynasty? So when I wrote it down, I thought of it, but then in retrospect, I was like, oh, does he mean like sacrificial lamb of death? Or does he just mean like the front runner?
The face
of
these upcoming.
And he says he wants to say Strange, which I would agree, yes, but I don't think he'll die. Is that outlandish to think about?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say it's like out of the picture.
Yeah, no.
I don't know. Well, Strange is like obviously way different than like responsibilities than what like Tony has.
He's so like dismissive too. He's like, I don't want to deal with that.
And it's like, and also I just think like Strange knows more, like, or he's able to know more because of like his, magic abilities.
Do you think in one of his multiversal lookbacks during the Thanos thing that there was a version with Kang?
I mean, it's a reach, but probably.
That'd be wild.
I don't think like Kang was even in their minds during that time. Way. But I mean, I don't know who would be like the front, like the face of the Avengers. I mean, it could be. It could be Captain Marvel for like.
Yeah.
In terms of just like leadership, in terms of like yo, hey, ha ha ha.
I know it's difficult because it feels like there's a lot of people who don't want that role. Like people that are very powerful, but none of them are Captain America.
And maybe that's like
or an Iron Man.
And maybe that's the story arc where it's like it's like well, like who's gonna be our Iron Man? Who's gonna be our Captain America? Maybe they all have that like discussion of like, I mean, it's not like, oh, it can't be me. Like Shang-Chi's like probably me? No, hell no.
I know.
Or Spider-Man, or even Peter Parker is like, devil. Like, I don't know. Like I don't want it. Like what?
I feel like the former version of the Avengers were all like, yes, let's do it together.
Yeah.
And then this one is more like, I don't know.
Like, I don't know if I want to follow that footstep.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though we do have a Captain America, we have sort of a Jane Foster.
It just feels different.
Yeah, it's very. I consider it very different.
Yeah.
And I think
which
that's
is good.
And exactly. It's not supposed to be a repeat.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I feel like we've mentioned this before, but I think that's where people don't realize like the reason why they're not enjoying these new films as much, aside the fact that they are a different vibe than the previous, is that the set of characters is also very different. They're just different characters. Mm-hmm. So it's not their fault that they're not another Captain America, another Iron Man, another Thor. It's a very different suite of characters with very different perspectives of heroism and heroics. And so it's like, oh man, I don't know. I really don't know. I would say Strange is a great candidate. Just because of the power levels and also his capabilities,
Agreed, yeah. But who has like that leadership in that? I think don't get me wrong. I think Sam does have it, but I don't know who's gonna listen to him. Now I'm saying that he's not. People aren't gonna.
Sure.
But
I also again like we previously said, I feel like Kang is so further beyond that spectrum. Mm-hmm. Of that beyond that realm of the Avengers, that a few of the great ones just aren't gonna do it.
Yeah, it's a high bar to hit.
Super
and
duper.
It's like who knows? Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
And with all these different heroes in the fold,
Sure. Yeah.
it's like
Yeah. So I think we can agree it's like Strange or Carol. Perhaps.
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
not mad at Carol. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree. Maybe even
Star-Lord?
Monica? Star-Lord.
Yeah. No.
I mean, he would die. He would die in like seconds. But if I can get my Chris Pratt back in a white and blue suit, I'll be like so happy.
And then he dies.
And then he dies, and I'll be like upset for the rest of my life. No, I definitely think it's in that realm of Strange, Carol, Monica, maybe. But after that, it kind of just goes, not so sure.
Yeah.
Shang-Chi would be an interesting candidate for sure. Power-wise, he's getting there. Kamala? Nah, she's still a baby.
She's just a baby.
She did the baby.
You know what? Kate Bishop, baby. She can
Why
lead
not?
me. She can lead me anytime.
The Kate dynasty.
Whatever you want, I'll do it. Yes. I'll run into battle for you.
Oh my god. Yeah, there it is. So, suggested reading, as I just said, Kang Dynasty. So the Kang Dynasty event, sorry, it did take place in 1998. I said 2004 because I was thinking something else. But it's a 16-issue arc referred to as the Kang War, penned by Kurt Busiek and a number of artists. Definitely check that out, especially ahead of the film. 2005, that's the one I was thinking of. And onward, the run of Young Avengers by Alan Heinberg and Jim Chung, which introduces the new team, as well as further explores the significance of Nathaniel Richards as both Kang and Iron Lad. One of my favorites, the Celestial Madonna saga.
Oh.
So this took place around issue 123 or 124, depending on which guide you're looking at, of the original Avengers title. And so basically Kang reemerges and he's like looking for this prophetic like celestial Madonna who's going to birth this child, and he wants it. And so it's, spoiler alert, it's Mantis.
Oh.
So if you remember in the Guardians of the Galaxy game,
yeah,
you go looking for the celestial Madonna.
Yeah, and it
ends up being Madonna. It ends up being Mantis. So it's that's very reflective of that storyline. At least when Celestial Madonna comes in place, it also it was between her, Scarlet Witch, and somebody else, and so he encounters like all. It's crazy. It's a good read though. And then of course the 1964 onward run of Avengers, as well as the Fantastic Four issues that we mentioned at the top of the show. Good reads, very dense text, but it was good stuff. Get you some Kang, because there is definitely more to come. And with that said, that is the end of the show.
Oh my gosh.
Holy cannoli, thanks for hanging in there with my nasal nature. So, thanks for listening also. Next episode. So, like I mentioned, we have a mini Marvel. We may have a special sort of recording process for that one.
Woo!
Which we will
try
reveal.
it out.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Try it out.
But something special. Rub them hands together. We're trying to do our Chewbacca's earlier. It sounded like we're both dying.
Yeah.
No, that's not it. J. Jonah Jameson, I can do no problem.
I can't even do anything anymore. I don't know what impressions I can do anymore. I am delusional.
You just need to recharge that battery.
I'm a little delulu right now.
You're good. But yeah, so special mini Marvel coming up, which of course we'll discuss more of Loki season 2 after we have been able to watch it, and then after that, it'll be around Halloween time.
Oh my gosh!
So
spooky season.
Spooky season is full in force. I did not bring the rest of my decorations up because I wanted to spare you.
Respect.
But I do have more of that. But in the spirit of the season, we're going to cover one of the characters from Werewolf by Night. Because the colored version of the short film will be streaming on Disney Plus. If it's not already, I think maybe
I haven't heard anything or seen anything.
Yeah, they just said Halloween. I wasn't sure if it was before or on. But yeah, so keep an eye out for that as well, and details if you want to submit questions. But we are Groot salute. To Joe Liz, Tyler, Ed, Nat, Robin, Ashley, Sherry, Eve, Ariel, Claire, Andrew, Katie, Edgar, Chris, Andrea, Laura, Melanie, and Jenny. Happy 1 year to our group. Salute tier, by the way, too. And follow us on social on STRK, CNTRST. And if you like what you hear, please review, rate, and subscribe.
Once again, thanks for listening. We will catch you in the next one.
See you later.
Bye.
I'm an Avenger. I've called the other Avengers.
You're an Avenger. Have I killed you before?
What?
They all blur together after a while. You're not the one with the hammer.
That's Thor. We get confused a lot. Similar body types. Who are you?
Just a man who's lost a lot of time, like you. But we can help each other with that.